warm welcome to Hospitality Tomorrow Gives. My name is Anita Mentorata. I'm honored to be the Special Advisor to the Secretary General of the UNWTO, and I'm delighted to be back with Jonathan Worsley, the founder and chairman of Bench Events. Hospitality Tomorrow Gives is a very important project, quite honestly. It's one of the most important we've been blessed to be involved in 2020. The principle of it is bringing together the hospitality community to recognize, learn from, support, and celebrate people in our global community who've been stepping up during this unprecedented, incredibly challenging year to not just help the industry, but to help frontliners, medical workers around the world, people in local communities, people in their businesses to be able to cope with COVID-19. To that end, I am thrilled to have with us on Hospitality Tomorrow Gives one of my favorite people in the world. I always describe her as one of the strongest minds and the softest hearts of the industry. And you will see today from this interview exactly why that strength of heart has been leading globally once again. Pansy Ho is the co-chairperson and the executive director of MGM China Holdings Limited. Pansy, a sincere, loving welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Anita, and also very nice to be able to, speak to Jonathan here.
Great, thank you, Pansy, for joining us, and 6 other industry leaders on Hospitality Tomorrow Gives, who have all shown exceptional leadership during this difficult time. I was reviewing your values and admire immensely your guiding principles as a business, which is acting with honesty and integrity, and to be the most trusted and value-added company in Hong Kong and Macau. How has your leadership team led by example in supporting frontliners and social causes during the crisis in 2020?
Well, very kind of you, to say that. We, of course, here in Hong Kong and Macau, both are the special administrative regions within China, have also been very exposed to the pandemic. There's still a difference between what we are experiencing here in Hong Kong as against Macau, which is where the big portfolio of our businesses are. So, but for us, in order to tackle this pandemic situation, and we immediately would see that the central theme of our early responses and initiatives would be to protect our staff and to invest in human capital and preserving employment. Because tourism represents for Macau over 90% of its GDP. So, in that respect, this is almost, an undebatable common objective that both the government and the enterprises will all subscribe to. To preserve employment, measures were immediately put in place to, even offer paid leave due to the temporary closure of some of our operations. So starting from February, as early as February 5th to the 19th, in fact, there was a period where we actually had a temporary closure of all of our casinos and hotels, first time in history. So in order to not let our employees have the fear about losing their work, we took the opportunity to demonstrate our solidarity with them. And so we, before even the government had the chance to discuss long-going strategies in terms of how to manage the city going into the future, we were first in promoting the idea of we continue to have actually their salary paid, and not only that, we actually gave them early in advance payments in order to tie over, this whole kind of fear and in anticipation of what's to come. More, of course, then because we were one of the earliest exposed areas and regions. When we started learning about, the situation in China, and starting with Macau, we also wanted to be first in terms of being very prudent. And so we started already providing all sorts of support to our employees to go through these difficult times, including, for instance, even as early as January 3rd, we already has established corporate-wide and, all over the properties, temperature screening checkpoints for the employees. And then, as well as our guests, we also provided face masks and hand sanitizers to frontline staff as early as January 20th. We already offered flexibility of working hours, segregation of working teams. So we are still working on that, team A, team B, alternate kind of operating mode, and allowing for already people working from home, especially those who are not, needing to be at least, in the forefront. We keep everybody in close contact via online app service, and we provide 24-hour employee assistance hotline, including even our own clinic on site, providing 24-hour supporting service. So anybody who has any, symptoms, or at least, if they have an anxiety about, at that point, as early as that, nobody really honestly knew what to anticipate. So we provided, all sorts of support for our frontliners. But more importantly, we also utilized, some of the downtime, because of course, even up till August this year, although we restarted the casino operations, but the arrivals were significantly impacted. We only were operating at about 20% capacity in terms of, arrivals. So of course that will present, a lot of downtime for our employees in order to, continue to support their mental and psychological, kind of level of health. We also introduced a lot of online learning, e-learning courses through our MGM e-Academy, which was already in place, of course, even prior to the pandemic. But here we can really utilize that, to its full capacity. We actually assisted in helping, over 4,800 of our employees to accumulate more than 21,000 training hours to upgrade their own skill set, and also to provide, a lot of kind of also encouragement to them, so that they understand, an enterprise like ourselves is always going to be in the forefront and helping, themselves to align with the market scenarios, and also for themselves to feel that they are contributing to the society. Because on the side, not only things that we're doing for ourselves, we actually are key in helping with the government's initiatives to provide donations and sponsorship of free masks to be given to all citizens in Macau. We have always been already very strongly associated with a lot of charities and communities organizations, and we continue to work with them to help, the lesser endowed people in the community, and including even to help them do cleaning of their own businesses, of their own homes. So in that way, our staff also become volunteers, dedicating some of their own times and know-how that we have, passed over to them to then be applied in the city and community.
Pansy, it's fascinating hearing you speak, because I mean, even how I have such high regard for your leadership and you as a leader personally. And it's interesting when you speak about what you were doing. This is back in January, and the world really was only covered in March in terms of its lockdowns and borders shutting. And yet right at the beginning, China and Macau set the template for the world to follow in terms of protocols, in terms of comprehensiveness. But what I'm finding fascinating about what you're saying is it wasn't just physical health you were trying to control and manage and help people get through. It was the mental health challenge as well, which is really quite a remarkable cascade. But you, madam, have always found yourself in the eye of the storm and helped people keep walking through it. You've shared with us an enormous amount about the defining elements of what you were doing in Macau, but I'd like to hear from you, Pansy, around when you look back at this year, what were some of the defining moments when you think years from now, when you're writing your memoirs, that you'll think, I'll never forget when? What would that be?
I would say, of course, there were so many different things that we were doing, even for our business counterparties, including the small, medium enterprises. And we were the first to also launch, some of the financing assistance, including, we not only were early to waive all sorts of rental receipts, we even offered financial assistance in order to, so that we demonstrate that the solidarity is there. But then came, of course, the more shocking, kind of, and really for us in China, it is actually a dark moment when the world over was not helping, rather than, actually making certain accusations or unfair, kind of judgment on how China had handled the pandemic, at home, including especially Wuhan, which is very heavily hit. So at that moment, we thought we must do something. I mean, we're part of China. Well, we are very far away from them. We couldn't really go inside and do anything, that is of any meaning. We, of course, everybody had made donations, all the major enterprises had made donations. And at that juncture, it's not just the money again, that would be, the key factor in helping our own, citizens to really come out of this situation. So we wanted to share with them. And I came up with the idea that why don't we, when we have, so many employees of ours. So we brought together some 2,000 employees, and we also launched it citywide for citizens of Macau to join hands. And each of us created a lovely, kind of postcard that we do ourselves, including myself. So I did a video and I was actually making that postcard. It's an arts and craft thing, because it's also something that MGM champions, with our own kind of arts and culture. So we made some 15,000 postcards to be sent to all the frontline workers in the hospitality, the hospitals, the nurses, the home care people, and the nurseries, the little kids, in Wuhan. And so this was a project that we did, and it was very well received. I think, again, this touched the hearts of the people. It shows how we could all work, together, and we can all support each other and dispel even some of the, negativity, that we might have to sustain. But at least, we want to extend, we are very blessed in Macau. In fact, we actually had very, very small window of exposure, and very quickly, in fact, we had the ability to actually curb a lot of the cases. In fact, Macau is probably the world's least affected place today. With we have already 250 days of 0 cases, and we continue to maintain that record. And it's the one city in the whole of China that could do so. So although we have had that good luck, and people were not suffering, to that extent, we wanted to share the positive, kind of vibes with all others.
That's remarkable.
Pansy, I love the way you're sharing that positivity and humility within the industry and within your community and within our community. And congratulations on managing the whole crisis so well. But of course, it impacts you deeply when it comes to the economic fallout here. So what is it you're doing as the many other countries in the world are going into the second wave? What are you doing in terms of new initiatives for 2021?
Well, as I said, in Macau, we are lucky that since August, mid of August, and now we are completely open back for Chinese visitors. Although, of course, the figures are slow to come because, more of our own Chinese domestic traveling would be, easily just, attracted to covering other locations in China. So we would have to see that that becomes probably picking up since hopefully by Chinese New Year in February next year. Well, we do understand still, how to ensure that all the people who are going to come through our doors will feel safe. So all the protocols that we were talking about, we continue to extend the level of education to all our staff to make sure that they will be also, making that effort, to sustain even throughout the post-pandemic phase. In fact, another good news is Macau would probably again be leading other cities in China to be the first to get full vaccination in probably come February, as we learn that we are already, being sufficiently affirmed that we will get the vaccines in. So, we don't want any of our staff to feel that, oh, okay, so, the worst is over, and then they could now just go back to the, pre-pandemic way of thinking. We want them to understand and realize how important it is that we should start from ourselves to make sure that, all the experiences do not go to waste. In fact, this is not just about the coronavirus. This is actually about how we, in fact, as a hospitality industry, people and specialists, this is how we should always actually behave. We should be always, anticipating or, making sure that we do not contribute towards any sort of crisis that is to happen. So we want to maintain this mentality. We are going to also work very closely with all our partners. We need to collaborate even more and, stronger in terms of making sure that the programs that we are going to provide will also be able to ensure that, our staff members as well as our guests are going to feel that we are very sensitive and responsible to their needs. So instead of always, of course, tourism is always about, after all, the quantum of how many people and, your receipts. But I think, we should learn that we can morph and help to create high value products, which are actually more interesting and more rewarding for our customers. And instead of always just, chasing after, the mass numbers. We will be working towards a lot of MICE events, not unlike what we have seen in terms of being able to provide, the technology as well as, the mindset to creating this kind of hybrid events that we had just seen with GTEF, which means we don't necessarily have to always have, again, massive numbers of people, but we can still ensure that they have a good quality event. And Macau probably could spearhead and lead in that arena simply because we are now in the Greater Bay Area, which includes all the important cities for innovation and creativity like Shenzhen, which can become, drawn in now to become collaborators with us. So the concept of travel and hospitality actually, in my mindset, will evolve. It will no longer be just coming to a specific location and, basically just booking yourself into a resort or a hotel and for some meals and just to have, shows or, shopping. We need to combine and, into a fully integrated platform. We keep talking about Tourism Plus. I think we should, now, in fact, invest both the capital as well as our own, creativity and innovation into providing this sort of cross-sector and cross-discipline cooperation so that we can enhance the whole travel experience.
I must say, Pansy, I'm loving listening to you talking because I'm a firm believer that when people say we're going back to normal, there's no going back and there's certainly no normal. And while you've been speaking, I've enjoyed, you keep putting your hand on your heart, which is really lovely. That's just, it's a huge part of you. I have a personal question for you. You've always been remarkable in your life's work and what you've achieved. If you look back at 2020, why are you a better leader because of COVID-19?
Wow. Well, I would always want to become a better leader, except, I think in any event and time, we should all strive always, to lead by example. And I think 2020 was exceptional. Everybody has been, given a challenge for a leader of the company. From that perspective, of course, it's about being able to stay and maintain a kind of prudent approach. Obviously we are suffering financially, but then at the same time, this is an opportunity for making adjustments, bringing on board, just as we said earlier, improvements, and really trying to have a new and fresh mindset towards the future. I think I've spent the most kind of my time during 2020 to try to do that. It's interesting that although I needed to also be working from home most of the time, but actually the amount of work is not actually reduced in any way. In fact, again, the ability to now have the chance to help each other and help yourself to grow, beyond the norm, beyond what was, already the conventional way of doing things, is actually very, very immense and also exciting in that respect. I look forward, that I could be able to share a lot of that new insights and some of our new visions with all our staff, and also, hopefully be able to conducting them so that they could become deliverables, into the future.
You've been an amazing model for this year. So Jonathan, I'll let you do the honors of the close.
Well, Anita, I know you'll also want to close as well, because it's a great honor, Pansy, to have you with us and showing such humility during this time. I mean, we could speak with you for ages to learn more about how you're innovating and your values regarding sustainability as well. But this program's all about what you've done for frontliners. So Pansy, thank you so much for showcasing that great leadership, for being part of this Hospitality Tomorrow Gives, and really being, a wonderful leader for our industry. So Pansy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Not at all, but allow me, to also welcome all of you, especially Jonathan, who hasn't been, or well, I'm sure you've been to Macau, but not maybe to, my properties. Once you come, you will find out for yourself, what I actually meant, because originality, creativity, and really, innovating, not just so that we can present, a sellable product, but more importantly, a enjoyable experience is what we're all about. So please come and see me in Macau at MGM. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pansy.
You gave me the blessing of being able to close off, and all I'm going to say is, now do you see why I love Pansy so much?
Thank you.
Exactly. I completely
Pansy,
understand.
Genuinely.
You're very kind, too kind.
It's a joy having you with us. You are one of my favorite leaders. We are thrilled to have you part of this initiative, and we wish you great strength, great safety, and I so look forward to properly seeing you next year, because as you know, I'm a hugger, and it's been a long time since I've seen you.
Yes,
thank
you must come. And everybody, please have a safe and good New Year. Thank you.
Great.
Indeed.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
Pansy.